Tempo Storm sprung a Cho'Gall pick on Team Freedom last game, but heads up drafting and play enabled Team Freedom to get through it on Volskaya Foundry, tying us up in the series 1-1 as we get ready for Game 3.
I think this series is shaping up to be everything we anticipated. We had a really good Game 1. Really
maybe not the drafts,
but
the epicness, I'm on board.
Epicness was there.
Yes.
And then Game 2 comes out. We're going to get a little bit of everything tonight. I mean, we've had a really good weekend. Our opening day of Tempo and Team 12 and that amazing series. We had upsets yesterday. We had Simplicity come out, fall a little bit short, but have a really good showing against Team 12. And now we get the fight for the top spot tonight.
Yeah. This weekend has been so good for HGC North America. It's been good, lots of upsets in Europe too. And it's not over yet. Game 3 coming at you between Tempo Storm and Team Freedom. And it'll be on Towers of Doom, the Freedom choice.
Yeah, you were mentioning this battleground earlier about how Team Freedom has done really well on this as of late and had that as a priority. Tempo Storm losing that game, opting to take first pick for themselves and giving up that map pick. So Team Freedom, see if they can kind of deal with that second pick. So far, we've seen a couple of Hanzo games from Lutano. First pick being available to Tempo.
Yeah. Tempo has continued to be really cool when it comes to map picks and battleground picks. They only picked battlegrounds, the one battleground that they lost versus, who'd they play week 1?
Tempo? Heroes Heart.
Heroes Heart. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So the one game that they lost, they picked battleground pick. The 2 games that they were able to, they had 2 choices versus Team 12. First time picked battleground choice, and then knew that 12 was likely to pick shrines and picked first pick so they could have that, so switched that up again. And now we're seeing them have the priority on first pick. Likely knowing that with Freedom picking Sky already, Towers was going to be the next go around. Tempo Storm feels like they have a really good idea of their opponents, where they want to be picking, and have game plans for those maps.
I really don't see... just letting Hanzo through right now, Gilly. He has one of the highest win rates as an assassin. He has just been annihilating people every step of the way. I'm just not sure how I feel about letting Hanzo through.
Why would Lucio be more of a concern for Freedom? Nope. Why would... Nope. I'm just going to stop asking the question until we get it. What do you think? Especially for Freedom, they seem to have so much Lucio priority themselves. It's been surprising to see these Lucio bans from Freedom versus Tempo, but it does leave open the Hanzo.
I think Karazim and Brightwing obviously come into consideration for collusion as we do get towards the later part of this draft since Lucio's not available. But Tempo is not instantly locking in Hanzo. ETC has been let through, so that could be the secondary consideration here if we're looking at Tempo's drafts.
I wonder if you're thinking about Malthael this high? ETC. I wonder about the same for Freedom. But with Hanzo through, potentially Hanzo Tass. Didn't happen last time. Hanzo Greymane was what Freedom picked.
But they ended up going the triple backline as well.
Yeah.
I think that might have been unique to Sky Temple, but then at the same time...
Or it could have been versus the Malthael, trying to make sure that they add more range to Kite.
The Dahaka I like a lot. Now, I think for Tempo Storm, they might have a priority on Malthael here. Get that hero for Glaurung on a Pale Horse, again, gives you that rotation. We saw teams kind of exploit that a little bit when there was no global and then a Dahaka. We've seen that a lot, especially with the changes to the gameplay.
Yeah.
The minute you get the opportunity, you invade the enemy team, you use your global, you don't miss out much on the top. And one of the counters that we saw to that was either a Leoric using that Wraith walk between mid and mid and top, or on a Pale Horse for Malthael. So I feel like Malthael will likely be in this spot. It's just a matter of what else they want to pair with it.
Last time it was Malthael Uther, and that worked out very well for them. Juna's played a lot of different supports. Looking at their previous Towers game versus Team 12, had the Lucio Tassadar with the Hanzo, but that's not available. Hanzo being taken. I don't see why it would be anything different than the Malthael Uther, but it is. And it's Greymane Medivh.
They have the flexibility to have this either be Glaurung or Psalm, obviously. And Psalm has been more the Kerrigan style. I'm not saying Kerrigan on this map, but if they wanted to play within that dynamic, maybe they go Zeratul even. There's a lot here that Tempo can make work. That's my favorite part about Tempo's roster right now, is that the flexibility between Psalm, Glaurung, and Fan.
Yeah.
They have probably, if you were to just put a bunch of names out there, you'd have more, I guess, compositions than you can run than probably, definitely anybody in North America, but I mean, beyond that, probably one of the most flexible teams that we have in the world right now.
Yeah, it is just how, I'm sorry, the people that they picked up and the hero pools that they already had, how that worked out for them, made a lot of people initially question, you know, is this gonna, are there gonna be some heroes missing? But because of the work, the extra work that Psalm especially, I feel, put in, and how far back Fan goes in all of his different role swaps, and Glau to some degree, his different role swaps too, it just sort of favored them to have those very flexible hero pools. Although it does feel like Tempo Storm is trying to maintain some consistency within that, and I think that's fair, that you want to make sure to maintain that consistency. So I'm still expecting some other sort of melee for Glaurung, and it seems like Freedom feels the same as they've banned Malthael.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird spot. Is if we get Uther again on the side, okay, never mind. I was wondering if that might actually go to Tempo's side. Now that brings up the case of probably Malfurion on the side of Tempo, but with Freedom, they have to make a few decisions on their support, but I almost want to see them hold their support. Brightwing or Kharazim, I think, are both viable options. We might potentially see something a little bit out of the ordinary. Collusion tends to stick towards a set of heroes. We haven't seen a whole lot out of him just yet. I know he's capable, but they definitely play within their comforts when they go to that tank support role.
I'm almost expecting something more on the aggressive side for Glau's pick, to take advantage of the Force of Wills and the portals. Murden for Zugrug, Malfurion for Collusion. Could be Li Ming as that final pick.
And then just put Glaurung on Medivh and then Psalm and Fan on the... Oh, you're talking about the side of Freedom?
For Freedom, yeah.
Okay. I mean, that would do well. Medivh obviously does really good against that burst style damage, as long as it's up, which it's up quite often.
Yeah.
But with Tempo, I feel this could easily be a Zeratul pick.
Yeah, it feels like it is more on the aggressive side of Glau's heroes. They played Ragnaros with Medivh before, but that was on Infernal Shrines. It was not on Towers of Doom. I'm not sure what they would... I don't see a lot of Ragnaros on Towers.
I mean, Abathur popped into my mind just because the Greymane there and the global potential. I just didn't see that. So, okay, so Fan on Abathur, Glaurung on Medivh, Psalm on Greymane, right? Fan known to be a great Abathur player, going all the way back to his Cloud9 days. He had flexed into that at times.
I think the Psalm Greymane or Medivh feels pretty interchangeable.
I'll say this. Not taking any shots, but last year, Glaurung's Greymane statistically was, I believe, his worst hero when it comes to range damage dealers. I need to double check that, but I know it's definitely on the lower end. And I was never really sold on him in that role. And sometimes it came down to the draft that they were in when I watched those games. I would feel more comfortable on him, on Medivh, and Psalm on the gray main.
Okay.
Unless there's just some flexibility.
I think that's fair. Falstad final pick. For Team Freedom, double global. Once again for Team Freedom. Though this time with a hardier support than Little Brightwing.
I almost wondered if they might be a little bit more aggressive with that pick, something that had more early game advantage. They can use the global to force out rotations, to do a lot of things early against an Abathur who, much like Cho'Gall, lacks that body in the way that you typically would see with 5 regular heroes. Abathur kind of breaks those rules a little bit, and I would think that they might get something to get the invade, get that early game advantage, have that priority on that bottom lane, take control of the camps, take control of the battleground, and force Tempo Storm to play from behind. Falstad can kind of give you that because you have the double global and you can force out rotations and you can invade a little bit easier. But long term, I think it's not as strong when you play this double global style.
All depends on how much they can get done versus the Abathur. Team Freedom themselves with Abathur ended up losing the bottom lane for almost the entirety of the game. The first time we saw them on Towers of Doom because of the Abathur and how weaker in the early game it can be. But Tempo Storm with that Abathur later game is going to have a lot with the double gray main. And Stukov, we know, can slow down the sappers, and that might be enough to help Tempo Storm too. Let's see, let's get into it. Towers of Doom is the place of battle for Game 3.
What do we got here?
Yes, Psalm is gray main. Medivh is Glaurung.
And Fan the Abathur. Okay. It goes back to, I believe, all of their... If you were to take a priority on that, it all revolves around the Abathur, which is Fan. And when it comes to Psalm, I believe the gray main for him. And Glaurung easily fitting into that Medivh. And right away, we are going to see a support the gray main style.
Yep.
As we see the Carapace. Not the Carapace.
Yes.
The Carapace.
Regenerative microbes.
Yes.
Extra little bit of healing from the Carapace.
Also, back into the viciousness.
Great, silence. Yeah, and what we saw from that was the sort of hybrid build when Zuna played this. Still got draft overflow at level 4 for the increased range from the explosion. But then instead of the incendiary elixir at 7, Lutano. Instead of that, ending up with the increased human form range of Quicksilver bullets.
How about this early aggression from Tempo?
I know.
I mean, they are just coming out to fight. They'll eventually have to respond top. Dahaka has such significant wave clear that an Abathur hat alone won't do anything. The fact that there's no ammo, it makes it a little bit easier. Abathur's going to go up there because he'll spawn the Locust. But this, it seems like Tempo wants to get control of the bottom lane. And if they don't get the invade on the camp on the bottom left, I feel like this will eventually amount to a net loss. So this is an important moment in the early stages here for Tempo.
Portal down, Dahaka's going to come in now, having pushed that lane. Even with the silence around the side, that was cute from June. They do not get the camp. Team Freedom get the camp, so they'll trade out on the camps, but with a lot of tower damage up in the top. Post 7, if Fan moves away from the Carapace, a couple symbiote talents that you can go based on what build you want there. He could move into a Mule. See if that's the choice he wants to give, both for helping them deal with any structural damage they take, but also to heal up any structures that they take if they can bring down some bell towers of Team Freedoms.
The play of Falstad and Dahaka will probably be the most appealing for me in terms of how they use their globals, get the rotation, and find advantages on the map. Abathur was able to neutralize the top. Now he's rotated down to the bottom. And we see Falstad and Dahaka top. If Falstad shows here, all right, that's good. He's hiding. I think he just actually walked right past that. But it allows him to get this camp and give them that top lane control. This is a good way to use it. So it's giving them an advantage, and I think Salmon team recognize that, so they're going to instantly do some structure damage of their own here mid.
Yeah, just keep up where they can. Enable that Abathur too for the later pushes. A lot of times you end up hanging around that bottom lane, and Abathur can slow push the top and mid. But he's going to need assistance with that because of the double global of Team Freedom. That was a really good pickup to have that. Oh, Roots not allowing through the portal, but Sam makes it.
It's up to Falstad to make sure that that gets pushed out up top, because they gave up a lot in the middle to get that camp. So as long as that pushes in, they get a little bit there. Falstad's going to claim the top left altar, maybe even make a play on the top right as well.
Yeah, nobody's moved into position for that for Tempo Storm. It's way more important to them that they keep the safety in numbers of all being together. And with the 2 globals, there's no way you want to send Abathur over to that, because the Slug's going to have a really bad time with that. Glaurung goes up. He's going to find himself a Lutano, and Yoda has the Force of Will as well as the Symbiote to do some damage, but is eventually going to get thrown off of this. And with the last shot, just flat out killed for first blood. They have not claimed this mid.
No, and so there's still a play to be made. Falstad clearing that top lane will stretch their lead, but the tongue's going to land there. Cattle is now body blocked. And this is going to be 3 captures, not just 2 for Team Freedom, taking advantage of the Abathur composition.
Yes, and that is what we hoped to see them do versus this comp of Tempo Storm. Team Freedom themselves played this composition even just last weekend, so they know what they need to do against it. Som, as well as the Abathur hat, will counter back with a Falstad kill.
Yoda sticking around just a little bit too long. That is pretty significant in the experience race. Had he been able to just hang in there, they can control the lead, control the battleground, but Solomon team finding their way back. Another group of sapper camps picked up here. Stukov, of course, silences those. That's why they couldn't charge before. And it looks like Team Freedom not willing to just kind of push that in. They're going to turn their attention towards the middle fort wall and see if they can get some structure damage back themselves.
Got a reverberation for this burden. No Thunderburn here for the second proc if you hit the hero to later have with healing static. But in this case, having that increased attack speed slow and longer duration is going to do a number if he can get in and get that on the Greymane. Malfurion goes down as Tempo Storm get aggressive and catch him with the portal, and it is Mule at 7 for Fan.
I think if it wasn't for the amount of damage that they've taken this time, he would have considered something else. But Freedom has punished them, and punished them pretty heavily so far.
Silence and the slow for Muradin. Tempo Storm continuing to siege in the bottom lane. There's a double altar activating in 10 seconds in the top. Mule's gonna go out with the Symbiote. Seems like Abathur will hold versus the push of Yoda, especially as Tempo Storm has started the rotation up.
That's unfortunate too. Yoda, I think, if he hadn't have been killed on that first rotation, might have tried to stick around a little bit, at least killing the Mule. Killing the Mule is the biggest part. All right, this is going to be their first channel. No 40-0 this time.
We've had enough of those games to last a lifetime for NA. We've seen a lot of different change for Medivh at level 7, but here, going back to familiar territory for Glaurung as he picks up the Master's Touch. He'll be working on getting those 30 stacks.
10 is here for Freedom.
Yes, that's a great silent slow. Dragon's Arrow went out, does catch, but there is a portal, and ETC will use it. So just barely getting those sappers, which just slows down Freedom momentarily.
Yeah, it slows him down. Falstad continuing to try and clear the top. Still about 25 seconds away from that top sapper camp spawning. They also have Lutano on Hanzo, who destroys bosses.
Shreds them.
But is it enough right now? They still have Mighty Gust, but Tempo and team have made it here, and this thing is not leashed yet. Yoda, however, is in position if he wants to try and Gust and steal.
Smart play from Tempo Storm, getting up here in time. Don't allow for the leash. Fan's gonna use that Greymane to get all the way back in on Malfurion, forcing him back. All the rest of Team Freedom use the Gust, but Glaurung gets back on the point. Ley line sealed, just to be sure. Tempo Storm move back with the knowledge that they have stolen the boss in those 4 shots.
The clone Greymane almost took down the Malfurion, by the way, in the mid there, but all for naught. The rest of Team Freedom was split just a little bit. Zugra gonna play the anchor here and defend that sapper camp. And speaking of sapper camp, we just had, wait a minute. Yeah, I'd say we just had the sappers on the top, but we got the Dragon Arrow.
Team Freedom still fairly split as they're looking to regroup. Psalm's caught. The drag goes in too. Twilight Dream went out and it hit Greymane. He has the force of will. He's out of there through the portal. Tempo Storm survived. Nasmus looking to go in with the movement speed. Get one more drag. The arrows just barely cut through June, but not enough to take him down. But there's an altar behind this. There's sappers behind this. That's 5 shots because of the top. Team Freedom still holding control of this game.
They're holding control. But this is Towers of Doom. And as 13 and 16 start to hit for Abathur, that's going to help out a lot. We haven't had that mosh pit attempt yet. We just have not had the possibility of that coming in. So there's still a lot of playmaking potential for Tempo Storm. And there's still a Stukov arm that stops Sappers.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's also the Stukov arm that pushes someone back because we've got a massive shove again for June. Saw him use that versus Stage Dive, and it was really effective versus Justing Stage Dive. See how it works versus the Team Freedom. What do you think about the mosh pit?
I mean, there's so many interrupts. Twilight Dream, the Mighty Gust, the Dragon Arrow. It seems it's going to be a very, very opportunistic thing to do. And all it takes is one on Towers of Doom to gain control. It's not like another map like Cursed Hollow where you get it, you don't necessarily have the same type of control. Getting control on a map like this, far more significant. So all it takes is one mosh pit to turn the game around.
There is the
Tahaka
play with a leyline seal too. We're gonna catch him with a portal, push him back, but the sappers are still a problem too. Nasmus still running away as Psalm tries to use that fort to get into better position, but Nasmus is out of here, so Tempo Storm just want to deal with the sappers and with the fort. The problem for them is the altar is clear down in the bottom, and that's where Team Freedom are sieging up now. They have to leave those sappers. Fan's going to take out the rest of those, and they're going to use the portals to try to get there as quickly as possible.
Falstad's got himself an Abathur up top. The bird gets the worm.
And no cow to get the bird.
Well, they get the shots. That's 5 more shots. They got a little bit of damage here. They had 13 to your advantage, so I was curious if Tempo Storm would actually engage. 32 to 13 right now. That's a full-fed bird.
No stage dive ETC to catch him for that. Too bad, but it's good for Yoda. Fort in the top, fort in the bottom. Tempo Storm running out of fortifications to keep them in this game. 32 to the 13 core health of Tempo Storm. The time to turn around is nigh for Tempo.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw earlier and the potential on this battleground is just, it's why it's one of the most exciting and compelling battlegrounds here in HGC, as Glaurung forced to use the ley line to save his life.
He hasn't finished Master's Touch yet. He's only at 18 sacks. So he had to use that, which means not as much of an engage possibly now for them. Relying maybe on the ley line into the mosh pit to get the better setup for a mosh.
The mosh could happen right here. I'm actually a little worried for Freedom to try and force the issue here. They already have sappers responding. The clone is out. Collusion on the backside is low. Ice block is there. Dragon Arrow, but not before the Twilight Dream went off.
It went off, but it doesn't matter. The double Greymane just wrecking all of Team Freedom as they bring down Lutano too. Nasmus getting in the back has found the Psalm, which is the real Greymane, and it'll take him down. The massive shove pushes back Zagrug now as June is starting to take some damage.
Sappers made it across, by the way.
10
two altars in this game. And Abathur, the clone is down. You have globals on the side of Team Freedom. They could end right here. Tahaka is in the top. Falstad making his way in the bottom. Zagrug is zoning out Cattle. The slide across is trying to get him down to that altar, but Tahaka is making his way to the top right.
Yeah, it's done. There's no way anyone gets up there unless they send Abathur up.
Abathur can put mines down to delay. Abathur is in a spot to where he can put mines down. They have nobody to auto-attack them, but they don't get it. They don't get it. That's it.
32-0. Pretty dominant game for Team Freedom on Towers of Doom, setting them but one game away from taking out the team that took out Team 12 on Friday. Not too shabby.
Tempo's taken a very unconventional approach to their last 2 drafts.
That's true.
And it has not really worked out, I think. I think both of them are extremely late game compositions. Both of those maps are extremely late game maps. except Team Freedom has found ways to accelerate them. Volskaya a little bit at 24 minutes, but they found ways to accelerate the early game. And on Towers of Doom, they found a way to get control. The juke by Dahaka up at the top opened up that bottom lane, and after that, it was just handcuffed there. The fight from Team Freedom over that bottom right camp, it ended up working out by accident, but I really thought that was a risky move. But everything that they've done in the early game against these compositions has really given Tempo Storm a headache.
Well, Tempo Storm, even game 1, did not have what you would look at as a conventional draft. Double support with Malthael and Kerrigan. They're definitely, it feels like, not cheesing, but trying to bring any strategies that they didn't show. You know, they already did show the Hanzo Ragnaros. They had a lot of just Ragnaros play in general when they played versus Team 12. But it does seem like maybe just feeling like they're kind of at the bottom of the bag of their strategies. I don't know, but for them there, the Abathur Medivh has to stack up Master's Touch. That takes time, unless you're going to build into something different. Abathur takes time, and it just feels like too many teams are getting too good at making sure that they get a lot done before the Abathur ever really becomes an issue now.
Team Freedom especially. I mean, it's 2 games in a row where structurally they've taken the advantage in a big way. Mule was not enough to save him this go-round, and I don't know. I mean, all of a sudden I see Tempo Storm. They've come out. They've been on fire. They're 2-0 coming in. They won game 1, looking like they had all the momentum. And now we see the 3 really unusual and unique drafts, and it goes back to BlizzCon. They come into BlizzCon thinking we're going to do something different. And it surprises people a little bit, but sometimes when you do these, eventually people figure out, all right, they're going to try and do this, they're going to try and do that. And then the good teams will find ways to counter that. That's why at international competitions, when you bring those, they should really be like pocket strategies, not every game strategies. And I'm not saying these are bad strategies, I'm just saying that they have flaws. And if a team figures out how to counter those and take advantage of those flaws early, then it makes the game more difficult for you as opposed to more difficult for the enemy team.
Yeah, you're looking at more one-dimensional style strategies, or ones that have, at least at this point, a lot of ways of being able to figure them out. You know, they already had Karzim as a 7-sided strike when the Cho'Gall came out, and then having the Ragnaros was just such a great counter in the draft for Team Freedom. And same thing, they already had Dahaka, the Abathur comes out, they add the Falstad to that. Team Freedom just stays calm in the drafting. They have a great understanding of what Tempo Storm's trying to bring in these drafts, and with the exception of the first game, which we saw them try to use the globals in the same way, they've had lots of answers of being able to deal with these compositions from Tempo. So now do we see Tempo Storm go more standard?
I don't know. Was Tomb banned?
No.
Then maybe not. Maybe they take map pick here and they go with Tomb of the Spider Queen.
And the Zod.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot they can do. I mean, they have plenty of tricks up their sleeve. We've seen them execute compositions like this before, but it doesn't necessarily just stand out and blow you away. It's just meant to, all right, I've got the sneak attack, I've got the surprise, I've got the upper hand. But it seems Team Freedom is willing to just come in and be like, look, they calculate a bunch of things really quick, and then it's just like, all right, what if we just do this early and then take advantage and put the onus of coming back onto Tempo? And when you go Abathur and Cho'Gall, you are literally missing that one body. Maybe just draft, if it's going to be weird, at least draft 5 bodies to actually be on the battleground.
Okay, J-House saying the Lost Vikings confirmed. Let's see how it works out. Game 4 takes place on Infernal Shrines. This could be a tempo pick.